She was never meant to stand out, just a quiet woman cleaning the mansion's halls, invisible in the eyes of those she served. But when a millionaire forced his daughter to choose a new mother, no one imagined the little girl's answer would shake the entire room. Suddenly, the woman everyone dismissed became the center of a decision that exposed deep prejudice, raw humanity, and a truth people tried to bury. What made a child see worth where the wealthy only saw status? And why did a choice spark a storm that no one could control? 4 years, Maria lived in the shadows of the mansion, dusting shelves, polishing silver, cooking meals she could never afford for herself. She was the housekeeper, the quiet presence everyone overlooked. To the wealthy family she served, she was invisible. A pair of hands that worked, a smile that hid exhaustion. Yet to the little girl who lived in those gilded halls, Maria was something else entirely: kindness, warmth, and the steady heartbeat of a home that often felt cold. The girl's mother had passed away suddenly, leaving a silence no luxury could fill. Her father, a proud millionaire, believed money could solve even grief. So, when whispers began about finding his daughter a new mother, he invited wealthy women into his world, each flaunting elegance, charm, and status. Maria watched quietly from the background, careful not to draw attention. She knew her place: clean, serve, and never dream beyond the boundaries drawn for her. After all, she had felt the sting of prejudice all her life. Judged by her skin before her heart, by her uniform before her worth. But beneath the glittering chandeliers and rehearsed smiles of the rich, something was stirring. A choice was coming, one that no amount of wealth or status could predict. And in the innocence of a child's decision, the carefully constructed walls of privilege and prejudice were about to crack. What no one in that mansion realized was this: the quietest person in the room was about to become impossible to ignore. The day of the choice arrived like a staged performance. The millionaire spared no expense. His grand hall glittered with chandeliers, velvet drapes, and a table lined with desserts more lavish than most families would see in a year. The wealthy women filed in, their heels clicking against the marble floor, their perfume lingering like clouds of entitlement. They laughed too loudly, smiled too perfectly, each one determined to charm their way into a role money couldn't truly buy. Mother, Maria moved quietly in the background, carrying trays, wiping glasses, making sure everything shone. To the guests, she wasn't part of the scene, just another worker ensuring their comfort. But the little girl's eyes never left her. Every time Maria bent down to fix a ribbon in her hair or whispered a gentle word of encouragement, the child's shoulders relaxed, her grief momentarily softened. The contrast could not have been sharper. The women boasted of vacations in Europe, private schools, and jewelry collections, each selling themselves like prizes. Maria said nothing at all. She didn't need to. Her presence spoke louder than the polished promises of wealth. But not everyone saw it that way. Whispers began to ripple through the room. One of the women sneered, loud enough for Maria to hear. Can you imagine? This girl clinging to the help. Another laughed, adding, she wouldn't last a day in our world. Their words dripped with arrogance, but beneath them lay something darker, the quiet venom of racism. To them, Maria's skin, her accent, her very existence marked her as unworthy. The millionaire shifted uncomfortably. He had built his empire on control, yet in this moment, even he felt the tension. The room buzzed with judgment, as though an unspoken line was being crossed. Maria lowered her gaze, pretending not to hear, but the child's small hand slipped into her zan. Act so simple, yet so defiant. And that's when the air shifted. The daughter's choice, though not yet spoken, began to reveal itself in every glance, every gesture. The wealthy women noticed too, their smiles faltering, their charm cracking. What had once seemed like a guaranteed competition now felt like a battle they couldn't win, not against money or power, but against love. One woman, her voice sharp with desperation, leaned toward the millionaire and whispered, "You can't allow this. It would be a disgrace. Think of your reputation." Another added, "A man of your stature cannot let your daughter choose her." Maria's chest tightened. She had endured prejudice all her life, but here in the center of gilded luxury it felt sharper, colder, and impossible to ignore. She wanted to pull away, to spare the child from ridicule, but the girl's grip only tightened. The room had turned into a battlefield of status versus sincerity, wealth versus worth, privilege versus truth. Every passing second escalated the tension, and every insult hurled toward Maria carried the weight of centuries of injustice. And yet, in the middle of it all, the little girl's voice was about to cut through the noise clear, unwavering and impossible to silence. The room fell silent as the little girl stood, her tiny frame trembling but her voice steady. All eyes turned to her, daughter of wealth. The heiress of privilege about to make the choice everyone assumed had already been decided. The millionaire straightened, expecting to hear one of the polished names he had paraded before her. The women leaned in, smiles frozen, ready to claim their victory. But then the child pointed. Not to the jeweled guests, not to the women who spoke in rehearsed tones of refinement. Her small hand lifted toward Maria. "This is my mother," she said. Gasps sliced through the hall. One of the women dropped her glass, the sharp crack echoing like thunder. Another hissed under her breath. Unbelievable. And then came the words that carried the sting of centuries. "She's just the help, and she doesn't even belong here." Maria felt her face burn. Shame, anger, and fear tangled inside her chest. She wanted to disappear, to shield the girl from the storm now erupting in the room. But the child's hand gripped hers tighter, anchoring her in place. The millionaire's jaw tightened. His empire had been built on reputation, and in that instant, he was faced with a choice: protect his pride, or honor his daughter's truth. The whispers grew into open outrage, the women circling like vultures, voices dripping with venom. "Do you know what people will say? Do you want your name dragged through the mud for?" This Marie's heart pounded. She had endured prejudice all her life, but never so openly, never so viciously. Yet here, in the center of that opulent room, a child had chosen her not for money, not for status, but for love. And as the storm of voices rose, the millionaire slammed his hand against the table. The hall shook. Everyone froze. His eyes burned, caught between fury and revelation. What he spoke next would not only define his daughter as future but reveal exactly where he stood in the face of prejudice. The room seemed to hold its breath. The millionaire's voice finally broke the silence, not with denial, not with shame, but with a truth that stunned everyone present. "If my daughter sees her as a mother," he said, his hand still pressed to the table, "then that is who she is." His words shattered the sneers, silenced the whispers, and for the first time, Maria felt the weight of dignity pressing back against the tide of prejudice. The wealthy women left in outrage, their carefully painted smiles crumbling as they realized money could not buy what Maria carried so effortlessly. Compassion and the unshakable trust of a child. The mansion's glittering walls no longer echoed with laughter at her expense. Instead, they bore witness to something far greater: the courage of one little girl, and the choice that defied every expectation. For Maria, the moment was more than personal victory. It was proof that worth is not dictated by status, skin color, or society's cruel judgments. It was a reminder that even in spaces built to exclude her, humanity could still break through. But the story doesn't end in that room, because outside those gilded walls, in countless places across the world, people like Maria are still overlooked, dismissed, or degraded judged. Not for who they are, but for what others choose to see. Her story is not an isolated triumph. It's a mirror reflecting the injustice that remains. And so, the question lingers. How many more Marias are out there fighting silently, waiting to be seen? How many voices will it take before we recognize that dignity is not a privilege, but a right? This is not just her story. It's a call to all of us to see, to stand, to choose love over prejudice, because the real measure of who we are is revealed in who we choose to value